In this video, we will explain the difference between terrorism, war crime, insurgency, militancy, and resistance. Number 1. Terrorism definition. Terrorism involves the use of violence or the threat of violence, typically against civilians, to achieve political, ideological, or religious goals. It aims to create fear, intimidate societies, or coerce governments. Key characteristics: targeting civilians, often targets non-combatants to instill fear. Political motivation, usually motivated by political, religious, or ideological aims. Asymmetrical warfare, often employed by non-state actors or groups lacking the military capacity of state forces. Number 2. War crime. Definition: war crimes are serious violations of international humanitarian law committed during armed conflict. These include acts such as targeting civilians, torture, taking hostages, and using prohibited weapons. Key characteristics: legal framework, defined under international law, particularly the Geneva Conventions. Context of armed conflict, must occur in the context of an armed conflict, either international or non-international. Accountability: individuals, including military leaders and state actors, can be held criminally responsible. Number 3. Insurgency. Definition: insurgency refers to a movement aimed at the overthrow of a government or occupying power, often through armed rebellion. Insurgents typically seek to gain control of a territory and influence over a population. Key characteristics: political objectives, often seeks political change or autonomy. Hybrid tactics, combines guerrilla warfare, political activities, and propaganda. Organizational structure, usually has a more organized structure compared to terrorist groups, although it can also be decentralized. Number 4. Militancy. Definition: militancy generally refers to the use of confrontational or violent methods to achieve a cause, often linked to political or religious objectives. It can be broader than terrorism and can include various forms of armed resistance. Key characteristics: spectrum of violence, can range from peaceful protests to armed conflict. Ideological basis, often motivated by specific ideologies or beliefs. Not always illegal. Unlike terrorism, some militant actions may be seen as legitimate by their proponents, particularly in contexts of resistance or liberation. Number 5. Resistance definition. Resistance is often seen as the act of opposing or standing up against an oppressor or occupying power. It can take many forms, including nonviolent protest, civil disobedience, or armed struggle. Key characteristics: moral justification, often framed as a legitimate response to oppression or occupation. Variety of tactics, can be non-violent or violent, encompassing everything from grassroots movements to armed insurgencies. Broadly defined, the term can apply to various historical contexts, such as colonial resistance or civil rights movements. Summary of differences. Target: terrorism primarily targets civilians, while war crimes involve violations against civilians or combatants during conflict. Insurgency focuses on governmental change, and resistance emphasizes opposing oppression. Legal status: war crimes are defined by international law, while terrorism, insurgency, and militancy can be subject to varying legal interpretations depending on context. Goals: terrorism seeks to instill fear, insurgency aims for political control, militancy pushes for a cause, resistance fights against oppression. Understanding these distinctions is crucial for analyzing conflicts and the motivations behind various forms of violence. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel for more such content.